Today's lesson is Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh or Van Gogh. There are different ways to pronounce his name. I say Van Gogh. Most people say Van Gogh. All you need today are a couple of colors, crayons or oil pastels or crayons over here. They work the best because we're working with watercolor and oil pastel, and you will see as I do the project that the oil pastel resists the watercolor because oil and water do not mix. So let's get started. So Starry Night is a landscape painting, and you start with your horizon. As you can see over here, I drew with a yellow oil pastel. The reason why I'm drawing with an oil pastel is because when you draw with a pencil, it makes a slight indentation in your paper, which will show up later, and we don't want that. So that is the horizon. It's kind of light. I hope you can see it. There is a moon, a sickle moon on one side over here. And then it glows. And I'm going to use oil pastel lines all over like this. I'm going to also use the white oil pastel and make some stars in the night sky. You could do yellow stars and white stars, and very lightly also. We have to stop for 1 second because this is oil pastel and we're going to use oil pastel and watercolor. So I'm going to just lightly draw in the cypress trees before I do the stars so that they don't show up when you don't want them to. So there's my cypress tree, and I'm going to continue with my galaxy. I know this is hard for you to see. I'm going to try and trace it very lightly with the yellow. So there's the galaxy with its little swirl in the background, and another one over here. And we're going to put in just white lines. I'm going to put in some yellow lines too so that you can see them. It's just lines that go in the direction and the flow. And there are some more lines over here. Vincent van Gogh was an expressionist painter. And expressionism is a technique of painting where the lines that you make with your brush, the marks that you make with your brush, are very important. It's like showing your emotion with your mark making. So I am making a whole lot of marks in the night sky over here, and I'm trying to let the marks go in the direction of the glowing stars. If you live in the country where there's not a lot of light pollution, where there aren't any cities, city lights, you will probably see more of our Milky Way than we do, because we live near a city and we live in an area that's highly populated. So there are too many lights that prevent us from seeing the sky. So that's unfortunate for us. So there I have my stars. I've surrounded my stars with a whole lot of little white lines which cannot be seen by my camera probably. But once I paint watercolor over it, then I hope you will see it again. I'm going to add a little bit of orange to the moon over here, and then go over the orange with yellow so that it's a nice deep yellow or a nice light orange. There we go. It doesn't have to be an exact color. The color that you end up with, or the color that you like. That's the important thing about this painting, that you still interpret. I'm going to add more lines, just white lines through my sky, because I think it will look really nice once I paint the watercolor over it. Now you know that watercolor and oil pastel won't mix, so wherever I make my marks with the oil pastel, somehow I got something on here that I didn't want, but that's fine. Whenever you mix water and oil, they don't mix, so that means once I paint the blue of my night sky over the oil pastel, the oil and the water will push each other away, and the watercolor won't cover up my lines that I make with the oil pastel. So we're going to see a little bit of art magic, or science magic with art, in a minute. So here we have water and we have paint. And usually you don't put this on your painting. I'm doing this so that you can see what I'm doing. In fact, I'm going to move it to the side. And the first thing you do is you wet your paint. Let the water soak in a little bit. And watch as the paint and the oil pastel push each other away. At least the oil pastel pushes the water from the paint away. And the design that you couldn't see before is going to suddenly show up. So while we wait for this to dry, we can plan out our houses. I'm going to use a black oil pastel and just small basic houses, nothing fancy. There's also a church with a steeple, so we're going to add that. A small village with a few houses. Keep it very simple because the pastel does not have a nice sharp point and you can't really do a lot of details with it. So your basic house, and then you could add on a steeple for your church. There we go. We can add in some windows. There are some hills in the foreground as well. So there's hills in the back, or mountains in the back, and hills in the front of the mountains. And maybe a forest in front of that. This is all in the distance. And we're not going to do details because it's so far away, but we're going to add in texture to show that there is something in the background. More bushes or shrubs, and some shrubs over here in the foreground as well. Maybe smaller houses. I'm going to change my colors a little bit. Try maybe some green. All this, when we paint it, is going to be quite dark because it's nighttime, but the pastel lines add nice texture. So we're keeping it simple, but we're adding some texture. I'm going to add some blue in here. And maybe some black over here. Vincent van Gogh did this with a thick brush mark, but we have pastel. So we are doing it a little different from the way he did it, but that's okay. That's what art is all about. It's all about doing what you can with your materials and also interpreting. That means looking at something and not doing it exactly as you see it, but do it the way you see it and the way you can do it with what you are, with your materials, and enjoying it. So there we go. So there's the texture. Because the landscape is darker than the sky, we are going to mix some colors together on our palette. And you see how I have the lid over here? We're going to mix black and blue together. So I'm going to wet the black, and the blue is quite wet already, and add it to the lid over here, and mix the black and add it to the blue, so we can get a nice dark blue. And don't forget, when you're done, we're going to clean this palette so that the next person has a nice clean palette to work from. All right.